right, welcome back to the Field of 68s After Dark. I am Jeff Goodman of Stadium. I'm joined by Terrence Oglesby and Nick Bahe of Fox Sports. And my daughter, Talia, today, she makes a huge decision. She did it on the Field of 68. She committed. She's not an athlete. Okay. She, for some reason, thinks she wants to do what I do, which I'm trying to convince her otherwise, but I haven't won that battle yet. And she chose Indiana. I'll say chose, not committed. And in her first day in feeling like an Indiana Hoosier, she sat down and she was like, Dad, you're watching the 7 o'clock Indiana, Ohio State, big game. I'm like, of course, me and you, we're going to do it. And with a minute left, Indiana's up 4, and they look like they are going to get a huge win in Columbus against a ranked Ohio State team. And the next thing you know, what happens? The bottom falls out. And they're going home with another loss, their 5th straight. And my poor daughter, Talia, she watched that one, and then she proceeded. She wanted to put herself through more agony. She turns on the Indiana women's game. They had been up 15. They blew it, and they lost. So I don't know what she's thinking right now. If she's thinking maybe she's going to flip and pull like a football decommit and flip tomorrow and go to like Penn State. I'm worried. I'm worried tomorrow, Nick, that all of a sudden, like she's going to wake up and be like, I can't do this. I can't be an Indiana fan.
Weighs heavy on your heart. That's tough right away, right? You're highest of high, lowest of low right there. That's not good.
Yeah, right away. But man, I thought they were going to come back and beat Ohio State because they were down a good chunk. They start making some moves towards the basket. And then look, this Indiana team has been really inefficient offensively. And some of those guys that I thought were going to be better, like Xavier Johnson, who was a really good player at Pitt, comes over. Today, he ends up 3 of 12. Now, he does get to the line 10 times, but they just can't seem to find any consistent flow offensively outside of Trace Jackson Davis. And even today, Ohio State just did such a good job of pushing him out to about 15 or 16 feet. And then he's having to face up and operate that way. And they're shooting you're 6 of 19. You got to hit more shots. And to play against a team at Ohio State, those last 2 possessions in regulation, guys, you can't lose your guy for a wide open layup to tie the game. And if your coach,
especially when his name is EJ Liddell,
yeah, probably not him, right at the bucket. And if your coach is going to trust you enough to let you go at the last second and not call a timeout, you've got to try to get to the rim, try to make something happen. And especially if you're Xavier Johnson and 3-point shooting is not really your bag, man. Like you're a crafty power guard who can get to the rim. If you're going to be trusted with the ball in your hands at the end to make a play, you got to attack the rim.
So T.O. kind of alluded to it defensively. They didn't make a play. They've been pretty good defensively, and they have been pretty good this year.
Yep.
But I thought offensively was a bigger problem. The end of the game there, you got about 30 seconds left, and the shot that you took was a 3-pointer by a freshman, Tamar Bates, who shoots, I think, in the high 20s from 3 this year. To me, that their offense is hard to watch. And part of it is point guard play. And again, I know T.O. loves when I say point guard play, but I say it like 10 times every show because it's the difference maker for me. If you give them a high level point guard, I know they don't have perimeter shooting, but a high level point guard can rectify a lot of the issues. So Indiana, Nick, are they in trouble now? Because last year they felt like they were in the tournament and then the bottom fell out. Is this going to happen again in Bloomington?
Well, I mean, it certainly looks like they're headed that way. Like you said, they've lost 5 in a row, and their defense is really is good. I mean, they're really good on that end of the floor. And I think they're top 10 in effective field goal percentage. Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis are really good erasing things at the rim. It's hard to get anything easy outside of EJ Liddell's dunk late at the 10. But I think everything you're saying is what I'm concerned about. They have not scored more than 70 points in a game. They've only done it one time over the past month. And I thought the end of the game illustrated the challenges of when your go-to guy is a post player, how that can be problematic because you got to get them the ball. You could see, I thought it was telling, Chris Holtmann, who's Ohio State's best player? It's EJ Liddell. Clearly. Who did Chris Holtmann put the ball in his hands for the entire crunch time? Malachi Branham. Because it's just It's because it's just easier.
He can make a play.
To get it to a guard,
Right.
you run him a high pick and roll or clear out a side or whatever. It's just easier for a guard to go make a play at the end of games than it is to try to run some cross screen, rub the guy out, throw it into Trace Jackson Davis, space the floor. And I think some people, you pointed it out with the shooting, but some people look at it and go, you know what? How come Purdue can do it, but Indiana can't do it? Well, Purdue has 6 dudes toeing the arc that shoot 40% or better from 3. 6. Yeah. Indiana's got 1. So even when you do go to Trace Jackson Davis, a double's coming, they're plugging it up. And oftentimes when Trace Jackson Davis is spraying it out, the guys aren't making shots. So I just not totally sure what the answer is offensively right now, T.O. and Jeff.
There's not a ton of movement.
No.
I mean, especially when that ball gets in the post, there's not a whole lot of cutters. Those guys sit in his lap on the outside. And then I thought, Ohio State's not huge, but they have a bunch of big burly guys that can push you out a little bit further. And as soon as Trace Jackson Davis put the ball on the floor, they sent a second guy, and he wasn't putting passes on the money. And that makes a huge difference. And not only that, they weren't really ready to shoot. And Tamar Bates, it ended up being the last 3 or 4 minutes of regulation. Indiana had to score over high hands consistently. And that's so tough to do. There was no go-to offense, it seemed like. Now, hey, look, I'm not trying to second guess Woodson or whatever, but it seemed like there was a lot of contested one-on-one jump shots, especially Tamar Bates, who can do that. But obviously you want to get him ahead of steam towards the rim, at least so he can create something. But to go along with what you say, Nick, it's so difficult to get the big man the ball, and then have actions around it. It works so much better. And you alluded to him, Malachi Branham is a dude. And
yes.
Goodness, I hope he stays, and he should stay. But Big Ten, and if Ohio State hangs around, you could see kind of a Johnny Davis type season next year for that young man. He is a
talented,
tough individual.
Really, he'll take a huge jump. All right, let me give you some numbers here for Indiana going into the game. They were 2-5 in quad 1, 3-4 quad 2, net 43, Ken Pom 45, BPI 37, Sagarin 32, KPI 58. They could ill afford this one. I know they were like firmly in going into today, 10, 11. I think now they're probably in that first 4 range. And, you got, like you said, Maryland at home Thursday, Sunday at Minnesota. That one can go either way. I think you win Maryland at home, especially at Assembly Hall. Like, that's just such a tough place to play. I think you win that one. That Sunday at Minnesota is a huge one because then you get Rutgers at home. The last one of the year is at Purdue. You're not winning that one. So I think you have to win, to me, 2 of these last 4, and then probably win a game in the Big Ten tournament to feel pretty good about getting in at least first 4. I think if it's close, we saw it last year with the UCLA-Michigan State first 4 matchup. The NCAA gets it. The committee knows. You throw Indiana in there in the first 4 if it's close, and you figure out a way to justify it, even if they don't belong in there, because you're splitting hairs at that point between all those teams that are on the bubble. You can justify whatever the hell you want then.
Kind of the same as what you're wearing right now on your shirt. Like, do they deserve it? Probably not, but are they going to get
to
in?
that?
Absolutely. Are they going to get in? But no, but Fielding of 68, the show on this network, Field of 68 network, they have them in the play-in game on the 11 line, and they need everyone. I would say they need 2 of the last 4. Hopefully, if they get 3 of the last 1, I would feel pretty comfortable, even without a win in the Big Ten tournament. But this is a team, they're reeling. They got to figure it out quick. They haven't been able to score. They've been able to guard at a high level. The Big Ten, heaviest scouted league in the country, I think.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say. If they win 3, if they go 3 and 1 down the stretch, they're in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. If they win 3, they're honestly, they weren't supposed to win this one anyway tonight in Columbus. The thing that hurt was they had it. They win this one tonight, then, man, to me, you're almost breathing easy unless you go, you completely tank at the end of the year here, these last, 4 or 5 games, you're breathing easy. Now you're sweating it out a little bit where you've got to beat Maryland at home on Thursday. You've got to beat Rutgers at home next Wednesday. If you don't, again, you just don't want to put yourself in this position right now. So I think
can't go winless in February. Can't go winless in February. You can't go a whole month without winning. And that's what would happen if they didn't handle these next two. Like it's kind of crazy, especially after the start.
T.O., when you put it like that, they need to start winning some games. If you don't win a game in February, that's a problem.
I want to know how, my daughter, when she did her pros and cons of schools, one of the cons for Indiana, she wrote down was the fans don't like Dad. So I said, I'm like, I'll flip it. Don't worry. They'll win enough. I'll flip. Well, what am I going to do if they don't win? How am I going to flip this fan base, guys? I'm more thinking about that than anything else as I go to bed tonight. How am I going to flip this fan base? Because she's worried about going on a campus. She's like, I don't really want to use my last name.
Jeff, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're not blaming Mike Woodson for this.
No.
But that's why it's all
what I did when he got hired was I lumped him in with all the other former NBA players and coaches, which I wrote something about 10 days ago. And it's pretty clear cut that most of these guys were not exactly successful. Like Juwan Howard is considered the best of the actives.
Sure.
And I gave him a B+. That might've been a little generous, to be honest. He's probably more of a B, but not one A-, Nick, in any former or current coach who played at least 200 NBA games. It's crazy.
It's amazing how much you would think basketball is basketball, but the NBA game and the college game are totally different animals. Everything about it, from the 24-second shot clock to the illegal defense rule to really everything. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of what Indiana does feels NBA-ish down the stretch, where you throw it to Tim Duncan, you let him kind of operate, you read the defense, double comes, whatever. Like they do some NBA things that you usually see with good post players. But yeah, it's amazing though how different the two sports are. You would think it would translate always, and it doesn't necessarily.
Well, we are now live on Sirius XM, guys, ESPNU. Baylor ends up with a huge overtime win against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. I know that sounds crazy because Oklahoma State is ineligible for the NCAA tournament. So, but it is a huge win because Baylor, listen, they've been struggling a little bit here. And Scott Drew's got a team that I felt like they were 15-0 to start the season, and they've been up and down largely due to injuries.
Yes.
But when we come back from the break, I'm going to tell you why I still feel, and I'm still going to pick the Baylor Bears to go back to the Final Four this year.